Hello, sweet souls. This is DTO in the flow. And today I get to interview Alisha Hawrylyszyn Frank, who is a multi-talented wellness professional certified coach at NYU. And she also has personal one-on-one coaching, relationship coaching. She's also a Reiki master, meditation teacher, yoga instructor, and writer for prominent platforms like Mind Body Green and the Chopra Center. Alisha is known for her empathetic nature, non-judgmental approach, and lighthearted humor. Her life journey has been marked by an array of hardships and struggles, which ultimately led her to discover an indescribable inner happiness that she now shares with everyone that she meets. Alisha is passionate about human and animal rights, carrying her activism from her childhood home in Oxford, Michigan, all the way to New York City. Notably, she's a self-published author of The Sacred Art of Living as a Spiritual Being, Part 1, Elements, sharing her insights and experiences. She also served as the first female president of the La Jolla Village Merchants Association in San Diego, while her fiercely optimistic headquarters are based in La Jolla, California, and New York City. All her services are currently offered virtually to reach out to a broader audience. Okay, without further ado, let's bring on, I like to say fiercely optimistic. Here we go.
Hey, DTO, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Want to make sure right from the beginning, we get to share this amazing book. So we can see this in the background when we fade out. This is what we're creating here, is the opportunity to talk about how and why this book is here to be shared with the world. And so we're going to do this today through a 5Q interview format. And before we go too deeper into the show, I want to make sure everyone out there knows that I am located at Embody, Costa Rica, and we are a wellness and retreat center. I'm super honored for those people that have been here and have seen the magic that we're creating here. And I am actually underneath that building right now. It's a beautiful place. You can check us out at Embody Costa Rica. If you want to check me out, you can go to my DTO music. And during this 5Q interview, we highly encourage you to comment with an emoji. Those algorithms are hungry out there. Comment, ask a question. And if you are out there and you'd like to plan a retreat, conference, event, any kind of rite of passage, book a call with this lovely lady in the picture. That's Himalaya. And if you go to our website, you can learn. And this is inside of our space. It's gorgeous. We have 2,000 square feet of teak flooring in the jungle. Beautiful place in the Central Valley, the heart of Costa Rica. So I am always in pura vida energy because I feel that I've lost the privileges to complain in life because no one will believe me. So when we talk about struggles and challenges, which I read in your bio, I think it's really fantastic to talk about that, because I feel the way that the light comes in is through the tension, the crunchy energy that's presented to us. So the first question is going to be the origin story of who you are as a human being and how it all started, and potentially with the struggles and with the challenges that we've had as a child, some of that gives us the aha moments to aliven us into our dharma, our destiny as human beings. So here we go. Let's kick it off with our first question for you. So when did you first have that aha moment?
I feel like there was a combination of multiple aha moments, and we're just these thick-headed humans where we have to have the universe tell us over and over and over again what it is that we're not doing that isn't in alignment, or what is in alignment, right? So there were a lot of aha moments for me. I definitely understand that the beauty of life comes from experience. And when I started to add up my experiences and the escapism of things that I wasn't drawn towards, but were occurring in my life, I understood the place of self-control and self-responsibility. And I started to do that deeper work. And that deeper work for myself allowed me to understand human beings a lot better. And so I was able to transition that over to helping people. So it really came down to many different experiences.
Yes, I love that. And that's the beauty, right? We're these multidimensional beings and we have different chapters in our lives. Some of us have lived in different locations. I know you live in 2 locations. I live in Central America, you're North America. And I feel that these chapters in our lives, like I grew up in a small town in the Midwest. I know you're from the Midwest as well. And yeah, what our life experiences, how they mold us. And even going into more like macro cosmic view, like taking ownership for me personally was like claiming, like I chose my parents, they teach me what to do, what not to do. And despite of the challenges, whatever it might be, divorce, anxiety, separation, like how do we find our way? And I feel like these aha moments, like for me, the aha was like, wow, I love music and I feel a deep divine connection when I play music. It's cathartic, right? It's just the energy flows and it's a release. So yeah, once you have that aha moment, then let's get into the second question, because then you go from like receiving the energy as a student in the classroom of life almost to then declaring like you now get to teach this wisdom, this knowledge, this information. So what was it that inspired you to know that you have this beautiful potential in this lifetime to have a role of sharing that with others?
The energy would turn on. And I didn't realize in the beginning when it was happening, when I was speaking and doing lectures, and my intention was never to be a teacher. However, it is my dharma. My dharma is to be a teacher. And so it's a really beautiful balance that I have been able to find between not only teaching what it is that I know, not only from this life, but through my Akashic records and just the many lives and all those lessons that I have learned. But also on top of that, holding the space for, whether it's an individual or a couple that is having their own experiences without putting in mine, right? So it's this really gorgeous dance that I've been working on for over 20 years, and I'm just in awe of it. I mean, my clients are the most incredible people in the world. We go through it, and sometimes we start in one place and we end up in a totally different, world. And it's amazing because the growth that happens and the compassion and the love and the expansion it's indescribable.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you got to listen and feel, and there's an intuition that, like my first question is always like the origin story. As I said earlier, like every superhero has a backstory. And then for you to courageously, fiercely, optimistically move forward and share that, despite of, what it is that's in our minds and our hearts at times. And so to pay it forward has really been, I'm sure, powerful in your journey, which is, I feel it's great to talk about how those experiences and how those teachings one-on-one and with others, how that's had an impact with people so much that then you recognize that your role from teacher moves into author. And obviously you having this beautiful book, which I shared at the beginning, and I want to put it up for everyone to see. This I feel is part of your path. And so let's go jump right in to question number 3. Let's talk about the book. Like, what inspired you? Was this a series of writings over the years, like some authors do? Like for me as a musician, when I did my debut album, it was like a 5-year project, a lifetime in the making. It was all these ideas and songs. You just, and then it becomes this like, ta-da, like this Simba moment. You're like, here it is, part 1.
Right.
And then I know you're going to do part 2 and you're going to continue with the teaching. So yeah, I'd love to hear the genesis around the sacred art of living as a spiritual being, and why the first one's called Elements as well.
Yeah. So it's there's so much information. For years I've been putting all of the little tidbits that I find people either don't know or are very interested in or know very little about, right? So I kept on putting things into this book. I think my biggest breakthrough from or to creating this book was I left social media in 2021. I had, 70,000 plus followers, and I literally just deleted it. And that release was one of the most expansive, awakening experiences of my life. I, you let go of everything and you come back to yourself. And I realized that the teachings that I need to present to the world didn't need to be connected to, I don't know how to say this lightly, right? Connected to these social media platforms that are frankly toxic, right? And it's not that there aren't good people out there or interesting things to follow, but the algorithms and the AI that's behind it is yeah, getting you here, but then pulling you in. And I didn't like that. I didn't want to know that people were suffering. And actually at that time I was receiving just before I had finally quit, I was receiving a lot of messages of, oh, I don't even go on Instagram anymore. And I only go on because of you. And then I was feeling this like immense guilt because I'm like, I don't want to bring you on here. I don't want to take you away from the beautiful world that we're a part of and the experience that we're supposed to be having here. So I think that really kind of skyrocketed everything for me. Everything was already very beautifully in flow in my world. However, this just gave it this ample energy of grounding and of understanding that was just the next level. So I think that that's kind of what took me there. And then with that, though, the reason I started with the elements. So I have I have a lot more to say, a lot more to write. It's coming together. The part 2 will hopefully be out sooner rather than later. But I started with the elements because I realized that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. And the most important thing is for each of us to connect to the elements, understand how to activate the elements in order to have daily practices, routine, and rituals that are allowing us to become our natural spiritual selves. So that's why I started with this just as almost like an elixir of life where we can drink from this cup and start to become our best selves. And then as these elements are truly becoming part of our being, we can look outward and say, you know what, this doesn't serve me, this doesn't serve me, this doesn't serve me, and go from there to be truly conscious and happy.
Yes. Truly conscious and happy. I'm all for that. Like authenticity. And I recognize feels like it's a manual, right? It's almost a instructional guide because not all of us had an upbringing with a community, with family that had a stake in our success, right? Like communities have stakeholders, like we all have our zones of genius and our contributions. And as you wrote here in the synopsis of the modern world of constant technological distractions, like how many kids are being raised by bots and technology and media, and they're not actually recognizing, as you put here, like the elemental forces of nature and who we are as these human organisms. And people that know my music and know that DTO, my artist name is Dave the Organism, and we're these organic life matters, carbon-based on planet Earth. And it's like, then how do we seek that? Because I feel like throughout the history of time, there has been this connection as by default. And of course, in the last just 100 years, 50 years, just how quickly we get disconnected to the elements, right? And I'm grateful to say that I live at a wellness and retreat center where I can be barefoot, I can earth and ground and be on the land and walk the land daily. And you go to California, you're in New York, back and forth. And I'm sure there's an energy that you probably get to toggle back and forth and feel the balance. So I love how the ancient ceremonies, rites of passages, I feel they've been lost in society in many, many ways. And I love how this book is part of that, is to remind people of who we are. And amazing. Oh my gosh. I'm super grateful that you have gathered it and put all the time and energy. And I love how the well's overflowing, where you're like, okay, now do you have a little sneak preview of what part 2's theme is going to be, or is that going to be continued?
No, we can totally talk about it. I really go into the home, and, you know, I live a very different life than most people. You know, I have a landline. I have an Ethernet cord. We don't have Wi-Fi, you know, like, it's just, I live very differently than people. Even the simplest things of I make my own laundry detergent. I make all of my own cleaning products, giving those recipes. There's a very, an understanding of color. There's an understanding of fabric, right? Wearing 100% organic cotton is very important.
Yes.
Right. And most people wear polyester. I mean, which breaks down your endocrine system, right? So like, we have to really start to look at what is being sold to us, and it's sold to us in so many different ways, especially, you know, when you do like aesthetics and like beautiful things, right? And you see this beautiful thing and it looks organic, and then you look and it's like polyester. It's like, what? This is poison. It's plastic, you know, and we're already breathing in those microplastics. So I'm starting to break down all the little things that I don't believe most people question. And when that seed is planted, then you're going to sit here and say, this is not the life I want to be living. You know, this is when we get down to our true roots of respecting the human body as a spiritual being, everything changes.
I love
that. It's so fun. It's so fun. It's
like you're getting back to your
in the beginning.
Midwestern roots, though. I think it's a part of your journey naturally, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Like getting back to basics.
Yeah. Oh my
elements.
gosh. But it's like, it's fun. Like, people get anxious about it. You know, I have, of course, had conversations with people about it. And I'm like, you have to take it at your own pace. But me, I'm like, let's do it. Let's do it. So I went through my entire closet. This is, you know, 20 to 30 years of clothes, and nice clothes, right? Designer clothes that I got sold on at some point, you know?
You're a fashionista, of course. You get all these different, and it's not about the materials. It's usually like the tradition of fashion is how it looks. That's it. It doesn't matter,
right?
You know, child labor, doesn't matter the materials, how it was cultivated. It's like that movie Blood Diamond, right? Everyone, the women want the diamond ring, but where does it come from?
Right. So. And understanding that, because it's all an energy. I mean, there are many, many layers to it, but you have to figure it out for yourself once you kind of have an outline, right? And maybe that starts with something as simple as, you know, your sock drawer. Most people do not own 100% wool or cotton socks, let alone organic.
Definitely.
They don't. It's hard to find.
I would say of 8 billion people on planet Earth, I would say 0.001% would even fit in that category. I'm just guessing. I'm not like,
I'm sure.
I don't have the data to see, but a lot of times you just make it. Now, I know when I started to go backpacking with like Sierra Club, you get wool socks. That was just default, like because they wick. Like if they get wet, you're not gonna, you know,
and you don't have to wash them.
You don't. There you go. Exactly.
You don't have to wash wool. People don't know that. Wool doesn't have to be washed. It doesn't have to be dry cleaned. Yeah.
Totally. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Does a sheep have to go around and like go to a laundromat?
Yeah. But even like, speaking of sheep, like what about carpet, right? Which carpet I'm not a huge fan of, but if you're going to get it, you have to get 100% wool, which is very expensive, right? With the jute backing. And the most toxic part of carpet is actually the liner.
All the chemicals.
The padding. People don't know that. So they go and they're buying these things, and you know, I think everything is pretty much expensive these days, right? But knowing what your money's going towards,
Yeah.
right? And there's an energy with that, because when you start to awaken and uplift to what you're feeding, what you're putting towards, it grows with you, right? Instead of creating a resistance.
Hmm. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
what are some of I know people listening to this, they'll be thinking, okay, well, it's going to cost more money, more time, energy. So therefore, what are the results? Like, what are the takeaways? Like when you have personally altered and transformed your life in the ways you have, like back in the day, they'd have like the Ricky Lake makeovers, like
Yeah.
before and after. So give me like a little before and after. So what energetically, how did you feel before when you were in that matrix, that world of just unconsciously buying things and not recognizing the energy behind it, nor actual, like the people that you're like, for me right away, the results of getting wool, even though the price may be different, is I'll never have to wash it. So how much am I saving in water bills, laundry, detergents, just time and energy of your own life force energy. We only have so many breaths in this lifetime. So what are some of the takeaways for you that you feel people are like, okay, now I get it. That's why this is important to do.
Well, I think that there are absolutely initial investments with certain things, right? But
Absolutely.
there's the concept of living more of a simple life. I mean, like, how many pairs of shoes do you need?
Hmm.
How many shirts do you actually need? And so
Yeah.
there's a simplicity to it. But when it comes to, for instance, food, I absolutely grow vegetables and fruit,
Yeah.
right? And
Same.
it's
Same
it's
here in
it's
Costa
so
Rica.
amazing, because I'm like, this, like when I planted at the beginning of the season, I'm like, this cost me $30. And it does,
Hmm.
it's $30, right? And how much does it give me throughout the spring and the summer and the fall is unbelievable. I mean, if I was writing that down and trying to buy this organic from the store, it would be a fortune, right? So there are ways. And the same thing with the cleaning products. I mean, like making them myself, I do believe costs a lot less than buying these chemicals, right? But then also we think about the later in life, because people, it's so funny when you speak to older people, they're like, "Oh, but I eat that, I use that, I'm fine." I'm like, "You still got like a good 30 years on this planet. We don't know where your brain's going to be at or what's going to be happening with you." So
Yeah.
all these things are preventative as well for disease. So we're doing these things for ourselves, right? And
Hmm.
also the greater good of our temples and the earth. I mean,
Mm.
think about, where are all these chemicals going when
Yeah.
they go down that drain?
Yeah. Well, here's a quick photo. Our garden project right now at Embody, we're making 4 different terraces. We're going to be planting our own food. It's going to be very Ayurvedic,
Yeah.
turmeric, tulsi, dark leafy greens, tomatoes, pineapple. We have lots of banana plants already, avocado. So yeah, we're definitely taking the power of like not knowing where the food sources are, where are the chemicals. And as you know, when you're actually putting your hands in the earth, there's an energetic elemental aspect of connectivity to yourself. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
where you feel better, right? And those are the results
Grounding.
I feel. Yeah. And I know we have a lot in common as far as the lifestyle choices we've made over time. No one would guess we're both 93 years old. It's pretty amazing.
94, but thank you.
I never guess a woman's age, but so yeah, that's what's beautiful too. Like I share with people often, if it weren't for these lifestyle choices I personally made, the results would not ever have been that I was this open channel to have all of these beautiful messages come in, where then my music, my art, my flow state,
Yes.
all that we've been calling in and what's been unfolding in our journey here in Costa Rica, many people out there have been following. This is my debut album, which I know you know me from putting my music out there. And also, Deepak Chopra endorsed me. I know you've taught at the Chopra Center. It was like all of this energy. And you can see my album cover has the chakras in it. I'm a corn-fed kid from Iowa. I didn't know. And by the way, when I grew up, we didn't call it an organic garden. We actually called it a garden.
I
And
know.
World
Isn't
War
that funny?
II, they called it a victory garden because during the war, they didn't have enough people to, grow food. They needed them, to make, unfortunately, war machines, but, World War II is a whole other podcast. But essentially, though, the victory garden was the opportunity for people to take the power back, not just to go to a store and trust that the food source, got there without, damaging the environment or not at the end of the day, like, is it life enhancing or if it life destructive? For me, so many people when they come to Costa Rica and they have a papaya, like really experience a papaya, they're like, I'll never eat one again anywhere else because it doesn't even have the same flavor.
That's what I said about bananas. I eat
Yes,
bananas again, but bananas, oh my gosh, the difference, like you get one in the States and you're like, this is disgusting.
totally. No, I mean, we have 30 banana plants and plantains on our land. I'm getting a machete all the time and getting fresh bananas. No, it's completely true. And it's extraordinary when we have people on our land here and they witness it and they can see where the food come from. And it's this full circle. And then, it's that concept of like 7 generations, like the tree you plant isn't necessarily for you for selfish reasons. It's for future generations to come as well. So I feel like the book that is, putting those pieces of information of like the elements and getting back to basics. I love it because there's so many aspects of life that we've either just been unaware of, we've ignored them. And I admit sometimes I'm ignorant, hence ignoring certain facts of reality. And then once I have the realization, it's like, okay, this is something actually I'd like to have. It's like when I make a green smoothie, it's awesome. I just walk out front. I just grab some kale, grab some different herbs, and then just put it all together. And it's just right there. And people love it. I love it. Also, for me, it's just one less thing to do. Like, I don't always want to get in my car and go shopping for groceries. If I can have everything on site, it feels good. So, what are some other action steps that you feel when it comes to the clothing? Like, where can you source good clothing like that? Do you have a list on your website or is that a part of your book?
No, I'm not. I haven't endorsed anyone particularly. I definitely have my own little list of where I get my organic
Hmm.
cotton tees,
Nice.
and I do use a lot of individual artists that make clothing in various areas around the world, and making sure that it's fair trade and they're getting paid
Hmm.
what they deserve, right? Um,
Sure. Like
but yeah,
Shopify, I'm sure has people like that.
yeah, but it's when you start to go down this rabbit hole and you start to do that research, it's pretty unbelievable because you cannot follow the marketing. You can't
Mhm.
follow even the words. Like, you have to go into the description and read what it says, because I guess if it's a certain percentage, it's considered organic when it's not, right?
True.
Or
Yeah.
or they're, oh, it's organic cotton, but it's 40% cotton and you know, 50% something else and 10% this other thing. And
Got
it's
it.
so you do have to do research, and you have to be diligent. Really, you have to be vigilant at all times when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
And we have to remember too, like, this is part of the biggest challenge on earth, right? If you're drinking your tap water, which I do not recommend, without it going through multiple, reverse osmosis systems and filters and all of these different things, there's so much fluoride in it that it's science now, right? That it
Hmm.
calcifies your pineal gland, right? Which is our true connection to the deeper understanding of life. So everything's kind of working against us until you get to a place where you're comfortable with understanding, almost like your little checklist that you have to follow in order to do
Hmm.
anything.
Yeah. I love it. And, all of us have been to school out there. We know what it's like to study and research. And this is life, right? What else is more important than having level of self love where we actually are seeking out what's going to not only impact us in a positive way, but people that are shopping or in charge of other people, right? Parents out there taking care of their grandparents. I feel like these could be really great tools for people to integrate in their lives. And what I've learned, especially once I did the international move, is I have way more clothing than I even need in the first place. I've massively downsized. When you asked earlier, like, how many shoes do you need? My answer was 3 in my mind. I have my sandals, I have my athletic shoes, and then I have like these throw on shoes. So it's like I don't need it. And most of the time, 80% of my day, I'm barefoot. I'm even barefoot right now.
Yeah, I'm
It's
barefoot right now too.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm a barefoot person. When I
Totally. I
have to
love
put
it.
shoes on, I'm like, oh, do I have to?
Yeah, I know. The other day, Himalaya went out for girls' night. She was getting in the car. I was like, babe, your sandals. Oh yeah, yeah. Because we're just walking around barefoot. So now we actually in the
Yeah.
back of our car we have a backup pair of sandals for each of us in case we hop in the car. You know, in Costa Rica we're going to a waterfall, a river, rainforest, coffee tour,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
totally.
So no, it's great when we can do that and feel that deep connection. And I feel like at some level when we get back to basics and we even do some level of cleansing, as you said, like making sure water is very pure and cleansed, then that leads into the foods you eat.
And
Um,
activated.
Activated, absolutely. Yeah. So, what do you think? Because I know most of our audience is probably in North America. Like, what are some foods that people right now that have a little piece of land somewhere, or even have pots, like tomatoes? Like, what's some foods that you feel like go to that's easy for people to plant, even if someone doesn't have a green thumb out there?
Yeah. I think the green thumb thing is a myth.
I do too.
Plants are, they're little beings, and
Hmm.
they will talk to you. They'll swoop over when they need more water, right?
Hmm.
Or they'll start to turn different colors, and you just have to identify that. Usually when it goes on the yellow side, it's too much water, right? Brown side,
Yeah.
it's not enough water. So
Yeah.
that's, we have to throw that myth away, right?
Hmm.
But
Yes.
I would say, this is a great question. I would say herbs. And the reason I would say herbs is because if you have it, your food in your plate and you are putting freshly cut, that you're giving thanks for, parsley or cilantro, or whatever herbs you have, your rosemary in your garden, your box. I mean, you can have that in the kitchen, right?
Hmm.
That is giving you a frequency, a higher frequency, which is immediately going into your body. So I would say herbs. Herbs is probably the best place to start.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, we have oregano, lemongrass. We just mint. We just go out in the
Yeah.
yard. Yeah, and some of these herbs, they actually go wild, like mint. They can
Oh
just like be
gosh.
on their own, uh, complete like they're growing and grow. They're like bunny rabbits. They're just out there.
Yeah.
That's amazing, and I feel like doesn't matter. Like if you're in New York where there's cold, you can always have indoor herbs and
Yes.
even sprouting. I remember back when I was living in San Diego, a friend of mine, Suzanne, got us into a bunch of our friends into sprouting. You just like get the seeds and you put water in, put it on your countertop, and all of a sudden you have these like living sprouts that you can put on top of your food, and
Yeah.
just very easy and simple. And I love it. And these are tools I feel that not everyone takes the time to even think about where their food comes from. So amazing.
Yeah. I mean, even just the transition into organic and understanding what that is. And then when you really do the deep dive into organic, understanding that there are still, I mean, it's much better, but there are still pesticides and things being used. And so then you're like,
Yeah,
well, I need to be growing this myself then. And
totally.
again, I think a lot of people can be overwhelmed with it, but
Mhm.
it's such a fun and beautiful journey if you can just take it one step at a time.
Mm, absolutely. I love it. And actually, right now on the podcast live here, someone says that they're from Pakistan. Awesome. Yeah. So there's different climates out there to grow food, there's different ways to grow food. Um, And that's beautiful. Well, let's jump into your website. But just share this with everyone here that whatever platform everyone's watching, you can go to fiercelyoptimistic.com. I want to make sure that everyone sees this amazing way that you are showing up in the world. So let's jump right into it. So, website, first of all, of course, your book is called The Sacred Art of a Spiritual Being. When I first met you, I knew you from Fiercely Optimistic. So tell us the backstory of how that name came about, Fiercely Optimistic.
Well, I would that when you're trying to name a company and yourself and you're doing this whole like, all right, what is this? It is such an interesting journey. And I was like, okay, it has to be something positive, because the biggest takeaway that my clients always say is they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much lighter after talking to you, or, oh, okay, we're going to this place. So we always move whatever's happening into the positive. But I'm like, but that's not easy. That
Mm,
it's not always easy to do that. And I recognize that challenge. And it's part of the reason why I can be so supportive, is because I know that can be difficult at times. And I'm like, well, what's something that like could drive the optimism, right? And fiercely came out. And I was like, yes, like a lion, that fierce optimism where it's like, nothing's going to stop me. Nothing's going to get in my way. I'm getting to the light. I'm going to that next point. Let's do this.
I love it. Well, want to make sure everyone gets to see your website and see your beautiful logo. And yeah, it takes courageousness. It takes that lioness, like gonna go for it no matter what.
Yep.
And I love that. Yeah, and I feel like when we first met, that was still is your brand and who you are in the world. And I love how, in addition to the book, I do want to jump in and talk about, here's question 4 around, how do people respond not only to the book, but I know that you have individual programs, you work with people as partners. So what are some of the ways and that people come up to you when they've experienced your work in the world? As you were mentioning a few ways, but specifically, maybe let's start off with the book. Like, what are people saying as like, what are the takeaways?
The one thing that I keep on hearing is, oh my gosh, I can hear your voice through this. Oh my gosh, I can hear your voice through this. And I'm like, oh, good. That's good. I'm glad you can hear me speaking with the writing, So that's what I keep on hearing. And yeah, I think it seems like the connection, it's that things that people haven't challenged before, this book is giving you the tools to challenge it and to try something different and to see how you feel, to see how your frequency rises, to see how you as a spiritual being are expanding. I think that that's the most powerful piece of this book and what people are getting out of it. We all have our own journeys. We all have our own karma. And I say karma, and I always have to, explain karma. Karma is both the good and the bad. It's not just the bad. People always go to the bad. I'm like, no, karma is good too. And we have our differences, right? But at the end of the day, we are compassionate souls on this planet to learn specific lessons in order to elevate ourselves out of this world. And this book is helping that cause. This book is helping individuals become their best selves.
I love that. The self-actualization, the self-realization, right? Is like activating that and being guided into it.
Right.
And I love that people can hear your voice. Are you planning an audiobook, or tell me about that?
You brought that up to me, and I've had a few others bring it up to me.
Hey, I have a professional recording studio in Costa Rica.
I know. I mean, hello.
It's an official invitation.
Yeah, I think that it's probably necessary. I actually didn't consider it. I didn't think about it, even though I lead group meditations and do all these different things, and I love that, because there's with the group meditations, the expression, it's not me. The divine speaks through me 100%. It is not me. And I now, like, kind of taking that energy and thinking about it with an audiobook sounds magical. So it's something that I need to do. We'll have to add it to my very long list to do.
Well,
but one day,
that's amazing. Of course. Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm grateful. We have a testimonial that I found on the link that people can order your website, order your book off of. So for anyone who has found hope in a sunrise, peace of mind in the ocean's waves, or soothing satisfaction in the consumption of fresh air, this ebook will delight you as it did me. Amazing how you outline compelling and joyful manner, how we share existence with the elements of the one creation, and why we learn the art of living in harmony with them to achieve self-realization and beautiful life journey. I didn't even read self-realization earlier, but I just naturally said it. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Be tempted to do all of this. So lovely that you have so much great positive feedback for your book. And lovely. So it's a physical as well as version. Explain that.
It's currently just an ebook.
Excellent. Well, that's how the world is operating, right? Digitally.
Right.
So that makes sense. Lovely. Okay. So how can people get the book?
You're going to put up a link for me. I have it on Kobo, which is a great platform, and yeah, you can purchase it there. And yeah, feel free to send me any questions if you have them. And I want to be a part of this journey with as many people as possible, because the more conscious we all become, the more present we become, the more loving and compassionate we become, the better the planet becomes, right? We actually are all in this together. There is no separation. So we need to support one another through these journeys as best as possible.
Absolutely. So everyone can see the link. I put it in the comments. And yes, the sacred art of living as a spiritual being. All right, well, let's get into our last section of the 5Q interview. So feel free to share any closing words, advice, or wisdom.
Trust yourself. I think that we can keep it simple and let it be. Trust yourself.
I shall. I trust everyone out there has enjoyed this awesome conversation, that everyone is inspired to go out and get your copy. You can see that the comments here have the link included. And yeah, I appreciate everyone being here, everyone's time and energy wherever you are in time and space. And I'm going to make sure that I check out a copy as well. And it's a great price. I love how it's $22.22. And of course, it's an investment for us to learn and grow. And thank you so much for your energy, your presence. Appreciate you, sister.
Thank you so much for having me and sharing with this world. You're doing incredible work.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for receiving. And I'm going to go clear out my closet right now. You inspired me. I'm going to go see what's going on. What are the ingredients to these shorts?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks again.
Of course.
Ciao.